And it is 8 o'clock.
Right.
Take this mic off if it's not making any difference because it feels cumbersome.
I don't think it's picking up anything, so you can probably put it aside. Okay.
All right.
I guess we can get started. Hare Krishna, and welcome, dear devotees, to ISKCON of New Jersey Zoom channel. We've been running this channel pretty much every single day since March, and we've had the privilege of having some exceptional speakers and panelists and wonderful devotees. And today it's our distinct pleasure to welcome an amazing panel to talk about a topic that we've wanted to talk about for quite a while and just haven't got quite round to it. So the topic tonight is building a healthy Vaishnavi community. And this panel discussion is led by Pranada Devidasi, Sudharma Devidasi, Danya Devidasi, and Nadia Bihari Devidasi. And I will hand it off to Mother Pranada to make the introductions. Thank you. Thank you all for giving us your time.
Thank you.
Thank you, Madame Gopal, for having us. I think we got invited because you heard something about a book being released called The Emergence of Women's Voices in ISKCON. We are going to be releasing that book this weekend at an event, and I'm going to share my screen quickly so that everyone can be aware of that event. You're all invited. Here we go. And at the event this weekend, you see my screen, correct?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. So at the event this weekend, which will run Saturday and Sunday, we will be giving a free copy of the book to everyone. That'll be a free link. It's an anthology of the writings of 34 senior devotees, and we'll share more information about the book on the launch. And interestingly enough, I want to share just another piece of information. There is another book that was just released called The Bond of Love, Srila Prabhupada and His Daughters, which was 10 years in the making, actually. It's quite an endeavor to produce this book, interview women from all over the world, and get these memories. It was just offered to Srila Prabhupada on his Vyas Puja, and it contains the memory of more than 300 of his female disciples. We had this experience of love, acceptance, and engagement with Srila Prabhupada that completely stole our hearts. And we decided to give our lives to him in service to Krishna. And this really, it comes out very strongly in this book. So if you haven't got a copy yet, or if you haven't heard about it, this is information for you. It's a beautiful bouquet of the love exchange between Prabhupada and his daughters. Now, emergence is born from another reality, so to speak. We found ourselves in a culture of somewhat dismissive, disrespectful, and sometimes abusive behavior toward us. So for 30 years, as you can see, this is a collection of articles and papers and conference reports. We petitioned philosophically and with feeling our godbrother leaders for the kind of spiritual consideration that we received from Srila Prabhupada. So that book, both books, we feel can offer a service to the society and to Vaishnavis in particular. I've been asked why I compiled Emergence, and it's really simple, actually. Just, before you die, you put your house in order. If you need to turn over your bank accounts and your credit card information, drop a will, discuss what your healthcare requirements are, what your desires are. If you're in an important post before you retire, you're going to write up a workflow and discuss what the procedures and policies are before you turn it over. And here we have an important life experience that we feel is would be helpful for the future generations coming after us. Perhaps they can avoid some of the mistakes that we made. Perhaps they could avoid some of the suffering that we went through. So we want to basically pass this wisdom on, pass the baton on. And in that mood, we thought that tonight we could have an intergenerational discussion about what it means to build a healthy Vaishnavi community, what that looks like, what would it entail. And of course, when we're talking about developing a healthy society, we're talking about a spiritual society, which would mean support for engagement in bhakti, support for our sadhana. Sangha is important. So what is the nature and the quality of that sangha that would nourish us and strengthen us? We need a solid foundation to jump toward transcendence. Otherwise, if our base isn't strong, we're going to have people jumping and falling down, and it's not helpful. And I think that everyone will acknowledge that women are the foundation of a healthy, happy society. And they're the people that can give us the stability and the growth and the loving community that's required for a long-term spiritual life. And I think, actually, I was talking to Siddharma a little while ago, and we were talking about how the first generation women of Prabhupada's disciples, we formed really, really strong bonds with our sisters. We were doing unique services, and we were having these trials and tribulations that we were dealing with on top of just the complex relational issues of marriages and raising children. And we had this like deep, not only affection for each other, but trust and dependence and this kind of shared knowing. And for me, really, you know, having the shelter of a husband and the beautiful family environment is gorgeous and a must. But I personally felt it was my sisters that carried me through much. So I think that a healthy Vaishnavi community is extremely important for our longevity and happiness, and to nurture ourselves, to be able to give to the society what's required. We need the counseling and the consoling and the support and the love and the intuitive knowing that women have about relational issues. And I thought that one thing before we turn it over to everyone to share, you know, one of the things that we did as first generation devotees, at least I'll speak for myself, is that we put service ahead of our children and our families, and that cost our children dearly. So one of the pieces of wisdom that I would hope to pass on to the future generations is to really give care to the children. They are they deserve the care, they're crucial, and don't make the same mistakes that we did. And now, saying that, I also want to say that still our own progress in Krishna consciousness is very important, which means a regular sadhana. And as important as our individual family, I think that each one of us Vaishnavis has a responsibility to Krishna's larger family. So how do we be in service to that larger family as well without sacrificing the individual family? So we have 3 topics about what it means to have a healthy Vaishnavi community, and then we're going to open it up. There's 3 areas we wanted to talk about. One is women's inclusion in our devotional society with healthy roles of involvement. 2 is relationships amongst the Vaishnavis that are supportive, understanding, and promote open dialogue. What does it mean to set a good example for others? How do we foster our own strengths, not trying to imitate a man's strengths? What are those strengths, and how do we apply them, and how would they be beneficial? And finally, how do people outside of our devotional society perceive us? What is important for attracting others to devotional life? So since this is a passing of the baton, so to speak, I thought we could first turn the floor over to my dear God sister Sudharma to address any of these points that you would like to speak about.
Thank you. All 3 of them are so very, very central and important to our mission, and our society of Krishna consciousness. I think that as women, as Vaishnavis, the feminine qualities of motherhood are very central to our existence and also very central to the heart of our society. You know, women embody so many loving qualities. I mean, that's the relationship ultimately between Krishna and his beloved, the beloved offering the inspiration. And similarly, within our society, women can offer a great deal of inspiration and affection and warmth that generates the softness of heart that's necessary to pursue devotional life. So amongst ourselves, we want to embody what that spirit is of loving devotion, the servant of the servant of the servant. And we want to emulate that, and we want to share that. So that means amongst each other, we want to build those healthy and strong relationships. It's not necessary for everyone to have to speak up for themselves or to do these things. We can support each other, we can care, and we can extend that into the heart of our society. And we can extend that into the heart of the larger society and amongst ourselves. I can open there if people want to share, but I think that in our relationships as men and women serving Srila Prabhupada side by side, Prabhupada spoke like that, the boys and girls are serving side by side. It's very important for us to have a sort of maturity and value and appreciation for each other. And that can be embodied by understanding. We need to be able to be open, to be able to hear, to be able to share, and to work cooperatively together. That's foremost. It's not necessary for us to over embody moods of, you know, what's my up between us. I mean, we want to, in the male-woman relationship, there is a sense of attachment and, you know, so many things like lust, envy, anger, greed that can grow, but that attachment is the Maya, not the individuals. And so it's really important that as we pursue every single dynamic of community growth and development, we value each individual in completion for who they are, what we've been given, and what we have to offer. Any individual talent or capability that any one soul has, that's a gift from Krishna, and it has to be utilized in that way, has to be seen in that way. And we have to learn to see each other as Krishna sees each one of us, rather than how we can, you know, maybe subtly exploit or utilize each other in a way that ultimately is, you know, based upon our sense gratification, putting Krishna in the center. I'd say that's at the heart of all three of those. And ultimately, we want to be setting a relationship for others that says, look at this. This is a devotional society. This is what this can look like for you in your lives. You know, you can have something so beautiful around Krishna consciousness, and we're here to share that with you. And please, everyone is welcome. Please come into our society and feel welcome in those ways. That's where I would start. But I'd like to hear, you know, from everyone, all four of our panel members.
Yeah. Danya and Nadia Mani have their microphones muted. Maybe they could unmute them. Haribo, Danya.
Haribo. Yeah, I'm you know, honored to be sitting on this panel, and I think that, you know, something that came to mind thinking about ways in which I think a Vaishnavi Sangha could be strengthened is having this kind of intergenerational experience where we hear from people senior to ourselves, senior either by experience or realization, and kind of not having to reinvent the wheel, kind of seeing what others have been through and then allowing that to kind of just be a lesson transmitted. I know that that's valuable for me to learn from people that have come before us, and that it fits very nicely with our philosophy to do that. And I like, Pranada Prabhu, when you were saying, you know, that you feel bolstered by the relationships with your spiritual sisters. I know that for me, it's also been such a fountain of strength and encouragement, especially when dealing with difficulties based on kind of just bodily differences. I know that having the Sangha of other people who are inspired and excited to be bhakti yogis has for me been, you know, essential, and a lot of that has come from Vaishnavis, from the females that I have had the honor of practicing with. Yeah, I think it's just recognizing what a wealth of talent and knowledge and realization, sincerity, um, is available in the Vaishnavi Sangha, and realizing that none of that is necessarily like sourced or excluded in the female body. That's the beauty of their unique offering to Krishna. And it happens to be in the vessel of a female form, but it's not in any way limited by that. If anything, it's expressed through that vessel. So it should be honored. And so I think, you know, being very careful to create a community, not just amongst our Vaishnavi Sangha, but amongst our overall Bhakti community and ISKCON community, to create a mood of encouragement, a mood of support, and a place of safety where we can feel safe and encouraged to be vulnerable, to share openly, to, you know, discuss our struggles, to offer our talents, to develop ourselves. You know, so many of our offerings in Krishna consciousness need to be developed in community. It's not like I have this magnificent offering, I developed it by myself, and I'm just going to throw it into the fire as an offering. It actually needs to be matured and kind of cultured through communities. So having a safe space where we can do that, I think that that's essential. And there's a certain like very, very tender vulnerability that goes with that. And unless we feel safe and unless we feel cared for, we're not going to be able to develop that. And so I think that that would be something that I consider very valuable, that I've experienced personally, but I've also experienced the lack of that. So I can attest to its importance.
When you say feel safe and you felt the lack of it, so you've experienced when you don't feel safe, in other words?
Yeah, sure. I feel, you know, certainly, you know, I'm a counselor and I've worked with people in the community. I'm also on the child protection team and have done some child protection training. So unfortunately, I've kind of been witness of situations of lack of safety on a very like tangible, real kind of physical way. But not just that, also like feeling unsafe to share or feeling unsafe to try something, or yeah, just not feeling sure even if I'm okay to be vulnerable, if I'm okay to share, if it's okay to talk about something, if it's okay to express my struggles or my doubts or share a shortcoming that I'm working on, that kind of thing. Because it already feels like in some ways the odds are kind of like stacked against us for being in a woman's body. So that's the kind of safety that I'm talking about. Certainly, you know, you touched before on situations of like abuse or neglect, and that's obviously a primary source of safety that we have to make sure everybody has. But I meant in terms more of kind of like spiritual safety. Am I spiritually safe to explore my offering to Prabhupada, to ISKCON, to Krishna, and making sure that there's a culture of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You know how you might find that? Do you have suggestions for all of us about how we can cultivate a mood of safety in our society?
Yeah, is that, do we find that amongst ourselves as the Vaishnavis, amongst ourselves? Or is it the societal situation you're referring to?
Yeah, I mean, it's been my experience that some sanghas more than others, right? So wherever I have felt, you know, in my years of traveling and sharing kirtan, and wherever I have felt that both men and women can come together to do their best to offer a sincere, whatever, kirtan, puja, talk, Bhagavatam class, whatever, when there's a mood of like really encouraging everybody and seeing everybody in their best light, and pointing out people's strengths and making sure that people feel appreciated and empowerment, then yes, I have felt very safe and I'm able to explore vulnerably. And then I'm open to being corrected or open to changing or open to improving, and, you know, that kind of thing. So it helps the offering, and it also helps my inner kind of, you know, like you said, strengthening of sadhana and clearing of my own anarthas and everything. And in the places where I have felt judged because of my body, judged because of, for whatever reason, usually superficial, then no, I don't feel safe. And frankly, I feel very discouraged and I feel like I don't really want to share. And luckily, I happen to find myself more often than not in a sangha of both men and women who are very encouraging and very excited to see me develop spiritually. And I know that that's not everybody's situation. So for that, I feel very humbled and I feel very grateful, but I also know it's possible. And that's why I'm so excited to make it happen.
Nadia, do you have any thoughts about how women can create a healthy community amongst ourselves?
Yeah, I was just reflecting on, like, since I moved to Alachua, we were part of all these women's circles. There's a lot that happened here. And I know that my mom was part of one when she was, you know, a younger mother in our community in England. And it was never something I took part in before. And when I came here, you know, Danya invited me to one, and just in that group, just to be able to hear each other and support each other and share freely. Like, we have a very strict code of confidence. I can tell people, you know, I'm struggling with this, I'm struggling with that. And we're just there to support each other. So on a small level from the bottom, that's a really nice way that I've found since I moved here. And I do feel very supported. And
How often do you get together?
we meet once a week. Yeah. And yeah, one of my friends also just started a little circle for those who want to study Bhagavatam together. And it's just some moms, and they're like, okay, we drop our kids off at 8 a.m. So let's try meet for an hour before our other babies have to nap, and we can just discuss things and check in with each other. You know, we've all kind of acknowledged that we're on the same page about where we want to be going in our Krishna consciousness. And even if we're not fully there yet, our goal is the same. And, you know, just having that network of devotees to surround yourself with, like, for me, that's my biggest strength to keep going, is these little circles that we've made. So somehow we could extend that. I feel like this is a ground up kind of project. Doesn't seem to be happening so much from the top down.
Yeah. It's, the nurturing is going to come from right here, right in front of you. And it's interesting, I've experienced how, you know, when I was 21 or 22, meeting a devotee and connecting and just like-minded person, and I might have been in that temple for a long time or not so long, but made a connection, and I still have that connection 30, 40 years later. It's amazing how you see these, what you're developing relationships now, they're going to last a lot of times a lifetime. It's quite beautiful. And the other thing is just like, what is the quality of the relationships that we have? What, like you're in you're in groups that are obviously going to be developing really close relationships with these women. What about women outside of that group? What kind of relationships should we be looking toward? What level of respect? What level of sharing? What level of advocating and caring for them?
I think this is a really important question because as Nadia Mani and Danya were speaking, I was reflecting myself about how, sorry, I do look down when I speak, and it is easier for me to speak when I do, so forgive that. About how outside of community, when it comes into a bigger picture of ISKCON, like as Sankirtan devotees in the past, or, you know, preaching or sharing in different ways, taking responsibilities in the kitchen or wherever we happen to be. A lot of times those situations are a lot more stressful than the community relationships that we're talking about developing here. And I think in those situations, it's very, very crucial and really important that we always remember what comes first. You know, what is essential in our devotional lives and our spiritual lives, and how important is that ingredient of association So, to maintain a Krishna conscious vantage point, that means that we're seeing everyone around us devotionally, that we're appreciating and valuing in the middle of everything that's going on, and something's burning here, or we need to get gas, or whatever's going on in other situations, that we're able to really feel that affinity and that bond and that support, and that we're able to work from that vantage point, and not forget who we are as devotees and what's important to us, and how we see each devotee, the importance of every single individual and what they bring to Krishna consciousness.
I know I made the mistake in my life of putting projects before people often, and it's taken me a long time to try to correct that and see how wrong that was, how hurtful it was to people.
I think we forget sometimes that Krishna's in charge. We can let go, and we can be the people that we need to be as devotees, and let Krishna fill in the gaps, carry what we lack and preserve what we have. We don't need to be thinking of each other as tools. We need to be seeing each other as devotees.
Mm-hmm.
I think if I just may offer a reflection that, each generation historically in any movement is going to have the things that they sacrificed and the things that they accomplish. And of course, any sacrifice is going to be painful. I think that, for better and for worse, the sacrifice of the first generation was that they basically surrendered everything, and so because of that, there's so much facility, and there's so much opportunity that can be kind of harvested by our second generation if we kind of prioritized, as you both were saying. And I think that maybe, the first generation's priority was preaching and expansion and books and, Sankirtan in a certain way. And then perhaps the priority of the second generation, or this transition to the second generation's leadership, could be relationships. And I think that would be very healing in both directions. It would be healing for the first generation to see it happen and to also do reparative work. And it would also be very healing for the second generation, who may have in some ways suffered the consequences of that, and also may now be able to have sort of like a corrective spiritual experience from that. So I think that it's important to hear you all say that and say, okay, this is what we learned from our experience. And then the second generation may take the baton up and say, okay, so then based on that, X, Y, Z. I think that's important for us to know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Nice. As a society, we've experienced a lot of wonderful things, and we've had our challenges. Other things have been more difficult. Nadi Mani, do you have any comment about what some of the more enlivening aspects of your experience in Krishna consciousness has been, and where do you see areas of improvement, and where good dialogue could generate increased understanding?
I actually feel really, when we have discussions like this, I feel really blessed about my childhood, because I feel like I was born at a time, like I noticed the collections in your book it's been a project since I was 1 year old. You've been fighting battles for us since we were born. And the community that I was raised in was just full of strong Vaishnavis, really. From my mom joined in 84, I think, 83 or 84. And she did her hard work, Sankirtan and everything, committing everything to the temple. Most of my teachers were Prabhupada disciples, and half of my friends' parents were Prabhupada disciples. And we just had this really strong community of friends, and we could always go to our mothers for help. We called everyone mother, and we really did go to them for everything. And yeah, I feel when I was thinking about the discussion points for this, I was like, wow, I almost don't feel qualified to speak because I've just had such a cushy lifestyle in ISKCON. And yeah, I think just having older devotees like yourselves who we can turn to and just be like, I'm having this problem, I'm having that problem, and it's a safe space for us to go and speak. Like I never felt shy to go to any of my, we call them aunties. And somehow, yeah, I'm trying to think of the way that we could spread that through the community, because it really was empowering. I never felt like I couldn't do anything.
It was strong Vaishnavis.
Yeah.
That's where you found your nourishing, your love, the openness, this learning that you received, the cushy lifestyle. You said it was all given to you by these strong Vaishnavis.
Yeah.
Interested in seeing is that we support each other to become those strong Vaishnavis for ourselves and others. And I don't know, I think Sudharma and I have had similar experience. It's not only oftentimes been difficult with how men have treated us, but even our sisters was sometimes difficult. So that's why I think we're harping on this point that it's so important to support each other, because it's a long journey, and it's not an easy journey either. It's a very serious one that we're undertaking. It becomes sadhakas that are progressing seriously toward an ideal that's not, unheard of in any other religious tradition. So we need to hold each other's hand and walk forward together. And that's why I agree with Sudharma, seeing each person as not from a devotional perspective, that we treat ourselves with care as a sadhaka, and that we really change our angle of vision here and start seeing each other as the unique, special people we are, being gifted bhakti, taking up the path, so extraordinary, not common. Any person who's doing this, but each person to be valued.
And that's our purpose in devotional life. Our purpose in devotional life is to develop our relationship with Krishna. And Krishna's embodied each one of us in unique ways in this lifetime for the purpose of service. That's whatever gifts we've been given by Krishna, these are intended for us to share within the society. And as Danya was speaking earlier, in a safe society, in a way that actually works, that is mutually supportive, and where there is trust, and where there is an understanding amongst each other that allows the best in each of us to come forward. And doing that isn't merely sentiment, it's central to who we are as devotees. It's key. It's more important than almost any other element of our devotional lives. Because when we're giving in these ways, everything grows. When we're held back, everything is held back. So everything has to have a fluidity to it, a dynamic nature to it. Srila Prabhupada was very innovative. Whatever it took to invigorate that spirit of Krishna consciousness, that was what was important to him. And he was proud of that innovation. He spoke about it all through Chaitanya Charitamrita and Srimad Bhagavatam. Just, here are my white elephants. They may have come from this situation, but look at how alive they are with devotional service. And everyone was working side by side in that spirit. And that can be today. That isn't just the past. It's now, and it's the future. We have so much to share amongst each other, no matter what our bodily concept is. Body, how we deal with the body, that's balance. That isn't, some kind of, overpowering element of everything in devotional life, that we follow these strict strictures and therefore are limited in many ways about how we just commonly associate and develop and practice loving devotional service together. It's a dynamic, alive, awake, share this, spread this, feel this, be here together and give everyone Krishna. This is who we are as devotees. And when we see that that's breaking down and we feel pain and we feel suffering, you don't just stuff it, you talk about it in a mature way that's effective and that helps people to see from different vantage points. We're all standing in different positions in life. We need to hear from each other. We need to, understand, and we need to awaken that understanding and make that strong and inherent in who we are and how we share in our devotional lives. I feel that is important to me. I mean, I am now definitely a senior in our society in the sense of I don't have that much longer to be here. So there's so many things that I just don't care about anymore. They're just not important to me. The things that are important to me are what I'm talking about right now. This is what matters, that we really, really, really put Krishna in the center of our lives and share in those ways. And build as strong a society as we possibly can. And if there was one central lesson that I wanted to pass down, it would be right along those lines, value each other, care about each other, support each other, imbibe the mood of servant of the servant of the servant. We're all on the same path, learn from each other, care about that.
And when you're open to it, there is so much to learn from others. Sometimes in the most surprising ways.
In every way. And not to be speaking, I'm speaking very absolute right now, and I'm sorry, maybe that's a little bit, strong, but, the fact of the matter is I don't know where I would be without my God sisters in Krishna consciousness. I've had the benefit of having wonderful association in devotional life. And when people ask me sometimes, why did you form the ministry? Back all those years ago when you guys are saying you were 1 and 2, which is a fact. So long ago, people don't remember it anymore. But, why did you do that? I did that because of my love for my God sisters, of sitting around the kitchen table with, Vishaka or Yamuna or with Pranada or so many devotees, and just, recognizing and understanding, first of all, how important it is to remember the mood that Srila Prabhupada embodied in our society, his legacy of engaging everyone in devotional life and of caring so much about each individual devotee that Krishna brought to him in this movement. That mood, that is Prabhupada's legacy. That's something that we need to preserve. And, and amongst that too, for me, when I was, confronting all the different obstacles in devotional life, and in those days, believe me, there were plenty. What made the difference for me? It was my God sisters. It was, walking, on the path up to the palace in Vrindavan and, having Vishaka come along and, go together and, going out in the van with the devotee, all these different things. These are the things that really mattered to me in my life and gave me strength. And because of those God sisters and that association, I have to say, I am so proud to have been a Vaishnavi in this movement. It has really meant something to me. The struggles and everything that I went through, wow, those built me as a person. And, I hope that any strength that we've derived in all those years, that that's something that we can share now as we're passing the torch.
Yeah. Thank you, Sudharma. That was extraordinarily beautiful. Yeah. You were talking about forming the ministry back so long ago, and I also began speaking up for women in Krishna consciousness to change the situation that was going on because of the girls that I saw. I remember Naya, Sheshan Manamati's daughter, she would Braja, her older sister, was really shy, but Pranaya at like 2 or 3 wanted to give Bhagavatam class. And I was thinking, I want to make sure she can give Bhagavatam class if she wants to give a Bhagavatam class. And I remember also, I think Vishaka's oldest daughter told Vishaka, I don't want to go to preschool dressed like a girl because I can't lead a kirtan as a girl. So, I think what I would like to say is, what I've done in my life was for my sisters and for the daughters coming and for the daughters to come. So I want to hear from Nadia Mani and Danya, who both have daughters. What are your concerns? What do you want for your daughters? What do your husbands want? What do your friends want?
I think that we have really big expectations and dreams for our kids. I think that, we were just talking about the other day how interesting it is that so many of us that offer kirtan have daughters, and how important that's going to be in, establishing a culture where everyone is encouraged to offer whatever it is that their natural inclination is, be it kirtan or otherwise. Yeah, honestly, having a daughter in any setting, in and out of ISKCON, made both my husband and I feel like, oh man, we gotta really take care and offer some protection and extra encouragement, because sexism is certainly a conditioning that's out there in the world. I think that it's not too much to expect, and it's not unrealistic to expect that in the ISKCON community and whatever Sangha we choose to put our daughter in and share in ourselves, that she be honored as valuable and unique, as important because of her connection with Krishna and her connection with Prabhupada, and that she be encouraged. We want to offer our kid relentless, unconditional encouragement in however they choose to serve. And we want to surround ourselves by people who are committed to doing the same thing. And I know that, I'm committed to doing that for Amya, for Nadia and Amal's girl. And I know that they're committed to doing that for Namamalia, for my daughter. And I think that, the beauty of these very strong, lifelong relationships, as you both have described, is that we're ready to offer that not just to our own children, but to each other's children. So that's what I hope to offer. And I don't know if it's naive, but I think it's possible. I wouldn't be here if I didn't think it was.
Do you see any obstacles to that in the society at large? I mean, doing that in your family and the tight knit is one thing, but having the facility for her in the larger community might be different. Of course, you're in Alachua. It's further progressed in some places in the world in terms
Sure.
of the facility that's offered for women to be able to engage in services.
Yeah, I think that it's going to be, yeah, of course there's going to be obstacles. I don't know necessarily that I'm going to be able to offer her solutions to every obstacle, but I'll offer to stand with her. And I think that that's what I have to do. That's what we all have to do. So yeah, I don't think that I would be able to say oh, don't worry, it's not gonna blah, blah, blah. But yeah, I'll just be there.
Is there anything that you would want to do personally within the broader community to make sure she has the kind of facility that you would hope for her?
Sure. I mean, as a counselor, I'm committed to helping people grow healthy relationships. And I'm committed to people introspecting and taking time and investing in their own kind of self-reflection, so that whatever anarthas I have that contribute to potential harm to our kids, I want to make sure to clear that up. So fostering kind of a culture of personal responsibility, not just that devotee over there is creating an obstacle. It's well, how am I creating an obstacle? And if everybody turns inward like that, it could be very powerful, I think. And I think also, I'm committed to child protection, which I think is a very powerful way of ensuring that especially our Vaishnavi youngsters have space and feel safe to be who they are and be encouraged in Krishna consciousness. So I think that, yeah, certainly self-reflection, self-work, and child protection are two avenues that I'm committed to, kind of in a practical sense, not just kind of emotionally, but also, you know, in terms of like the work that I do. I think that that's ways that I can contribute.
Nadia, what are your hopes and concerns for your daughter, or what are your husband's?
We haven't got to concerns yet. I mean, we just had the drama of should we put her into school this year, and will she get a place if we don't accept this place? But we're going to keep her at home this year. But I was thinking one hopeful thing for the future is that we do have our husbands, and they're so on board with giving our daughters everything. You know, if someone's going to say to them, you can't lead kirtan right now, their dad's going to be like, what do you mean? They're my child. What do you mean they can't lead kirtan? Amala Harinam's daughter can't lead a kirtan? What are you talking about? Or if Namamalia tries to pick up the mridanga, you know, who's going to stop her, because her father's one of the greatest. And I know he would just cut down anyone who would try and stop her. And I think, you know, and that's what I was saying for our generation. I feel like we're so lucky that we aren't in it alone, and we're cutting out a lot of the bad habits of, not to blame men, but the bad habits of how the ISKCON culture has developed in the past. And all of these obstacles, we're not really presenting them to ourselves. If we want to do something, the obstacle is generally coming from, maybe that's not the Vedic way to do something, you know, or in the Bhagavatam it says women shouldn't do this. And I feel like with our peers and in these groups that we're creating, and we also have a couples sadhana group, and it's us and our husbands, and we're going to try and give everything to our kids that we can and support them in every way. And like Danya said, just stand by them. Like, if this is what you want to do for your path, who is anyone to stop you right now? And our goal can be to try and just ward off those obstacles in any way we can. And I think our conditioning is a little different growing up in the movement, and we're surrounded mainly by other people who grew up in the movement too, and our view is, it can be quite different, I think, than others. And thankfully it's quite positive and inclusive. We all grew up as brothers and sisters, if we were closer together, and we wanted to help each other and we wanted to push each other forward. And you know, a lot of examples I'm giving are from kirtan, or because that's just our reality in this phase of our life. But you know, I feel like we support each other. Danya makes a track, I share it. I made a track, Danya shares it. Kish made a new track, we share it. We support each other. We're saying, hey everyone, look at this amazing thing that our friend just did in service to Krishna. And it's not just for women, it's for everyone in our community, because that's what we need to do, build a community where everybody feels supported and that they can just achieve their dreams.
I feel very hopeful also seeing the men of your generation not conditioned in some of the ways that our generation was, and being willing to just, you know, speak up and support their wives and their children. And it's it's definitely an important strength.
And our husbands were raised by you all. So it's already a good sign.
Hare Krishna.
I can see my in-laws are online too.
You know, the other thing is that, isn't it true? You know, we want these powerful men. You need good women to raise these powerful men. Where else are they coming from?
Mm-hmm.
Krishna.
And like you say, Nadia Mani, take care of each other and support the children. and support, all of the devotees, care about each other. It's just,
I like
thank you for sharing all those points. Yeah.
One thing that you said, Sudharma, a couple days ago is when someone struggles, we all struggle. And I think that is not only true, but it's very powerful to think of what the implications of that are. And when we do understand that, how we want to reach out to help others in any way that we can, help them.
Well, Prabhupada talked about that in terms of Vaikuntha thinking. He expressed that when just one person is doing well within the community, everybody's uplifted. And similarly, when one person is struggling and feeling challenged, that affects everybody as well. And it's not for us to pass judgment or to make life worse for that person. Excuse me, I'm so sorry. Rather, we see that this person is being challenged and we're going to support them to help meet that challenge. And because we all have challenges, we all have to face difficulties in our life from many different circumstances. So when we're in those positions, whether it's life and death issues, or whether it's not getting along issues, or whether it's struggling to practically care for the family and each other, we need to be there for each other. So that is what builds a healthy and a strong community, because ultimately it's the weakest link that breaks you. The stronger links, okay, they stay in place. When the weakest link breaks, everything falls apart. So yeah. This and I like the way that Prabhupada referred to that as Vaikuntha thinking, Vaishnava thinking, Vaikuntha thinking.
That's the thing, to change our perspective, because it's so easy to get caught up in the externals and just seeing externally, and it's not really reality. That's one of the things that I've been thinking about so much recently, is that what I'm seeing is not reality. It's actually illusion. And I'm just begging, please give me the correct angle of vision. Please give me eyes to see what scriptures reveal, to see what's really going on here is something quite beautiful in our lives, in our bhakti practice. And that's going to be mercy. So it's something that we can pray for. It's a gift. Actually, it's a real gift to be able to see, like we're discussing.
And there's so much, I'm sorry to interrupt, but there's just so much that we have to endure and face already. I mean, the world is a very trying environment to be in. So why not relish the gifts that we have that are just so important and make all the difference? And that is the gift of association, the gift of understanding in Krishna consciousness, and developing that spiritual relationship and absorption and memory and all of these things. These are the things that make us who we are and what's important to us. All these other things, they're so secondary and really just not that important. At the end of the day, they're just not.
And that becomes clearer and clearer the older we're getting, isn't it?
Exactly.
It's so clear.
We open it up for some maybe questions or comments from our audience. Is that okay?
That'd be nice.
If anybody has any comments or questions, they can chat in the box here, or okay, I see Mitravinda. Mitravinda, go ahead. You can unmute yourself. Yeah, there you go.
Hare Krishna, everyone. Please.
Hi, Krishna.
Prabhupada, thank you so much for being here. Thank you so much for having this platform, which I feel is extremely healthy, because it takes these conversations or feelings, emotions out of, let's say, for example, a pocket of a community that is not healthy, or where support is not given on large scales, or things are happening that are not healthy for community, children, or women, to have a different perspective and feel hope and feel inspiration where there might not be any or as much. I wanted to say that, for example, in the material world, there's marketing and there's ways that things are presented. in order to draw people in, whether, from a business perspective, it's monetary gain. From the perspective of Krishna consciousness, it would be to bring people in so they can learn their eternal relationship with Krishna, which is beneficial to them. My question or statement is, or both, is we are not our bodies, no. But I would say that, from an honest perspective, there is lacking in ISKCON and what I've seen even today in this millennial age, a representation that would make everyone feel comfortable to come in or feel invited. For example, and not to criticize or anything, but the panel. There are other people on the panel who look different from all of you women who may have, had a different perspective or perhaps been able to encourage and invite others in. There are other advertisements on Vaishnavi sanghas and associations that I feel don't reference my experiences as a devotee in ISKCON since 1991. And I have a daughter who's 16 now, and we are struggling here in Philadelphia with issues that, it happens, but as far as community, we need help and we need support. And I feel not just for myself and my daughter and my son also, but the community overall. And so I have communicated, and this is a platform where I feel I'm hoping that I can get some more support, inspiration, and ideas on how to move forward in a Krishna conscious, yet strong and outgoing way, which is what I do.
I hear you so much about what you're saying about inclusion of everyone. Excuse me. As far as anything that we're doing as women, I guess one of my prayers would just be that the gentle-hearted nature of this endeavor would be the kind of inclusion that would look beyond all of these considerations, as Prabhupada talked about all the time, beyond gender, beyond race, beyond, religion, culture, nationality, birth, all of this stuff ultimately does need to be not only put aside, but as you're saying, we need to look at it and think, how can we encourage and create a full circle, and where everyone is genuinely, seen and involved and respected and valued. Everyone, regardless of any of this. Why? Because at the end of the day, if we're talking about Krishna consciousness, at the end of the day, the only thing that Krishna sees is the devotion. None of these things are supposed to be, what's the word that I'm looking for? They're not supposed to be, you don't need to have anything else except for the devotion, That's the important thing. And when people are struggling, like you're saying, not just you individually, but the whole community there, Philadelphia has been, through so many different changes, and, the community's been stronger and weaker at different times. And it would be nice if we would share, Alachua's got, like a huge community with so many devotees, and we have a different set of experiences. And there's a lot of discussion and dialogue and consideration and time that can be taken to, again, strengthen each other and be there for each other. But that's not enough of an answer. I hope the other panelists say something. I just wanted to jump in on the part about inclusivity and like really changing the dynamic a little bit. I mean, it shouldn't, women's faces need to represent every demographic. They really do. I mean, every demographic needs to be represented anyway, everywhere. Yeah. With a little extra care and attention.
I don't know that I have specific suggestions for how to develop community when a community is struggling, except for to start, yourself, just like Nadia was talking about a women's group, just have, even if it's just one other person where you either read with them or share with them, and develop from there. I don't know what the Philadelphia community looks like now. It's been 35 years since I was in Philadelphia.
We both lived there together.
But it's been a long time.
Yeah.
I thank you for your words of encouragement and inspiration. I'm asking twofold. Like I said, I'm having my own personal struggles, which relate to my services and power issues and things like that. I'm not going to go any further than that. But also my question point is because I'm having, by Srila Prabhupada's benediction and my Guru Maharaj and the wealth of devotees that I came up with, to include Mother Rajalila, when I was a Bhaktin, is that I'm having an opportunity to speak to and connect with and share Krishna consciousness with like approximately 2,000 women, and read Bhagavad Gita together, and it's growing and it's huge, and and they don't know anything. Most of them have never even heard the name Krishna. So, we're having there's conversations like, there seems to be some similarity between Krishna somehow and Jesus and Krishna. And so I'm trying to, I don't have the temple or that as a support system for what has been bestowed upon me. And I'm trying to figure out how I can best improve and become enough to assist them on their path, but from a perspective of friendship, which is how I connect to people. And my Guru Maharaj Bhakti Tirtha Swami was, expert with that as well. But I'm feeling like, alone in the sea in this large, opportunity to serve and no resources. So that's the other reason I'm asking.
Sounds like you need to put out a call for help, like, does anyone want to participate with this project that's happening?
I think also, if I can just kind of humbly offer a thought that, I can definitely resonate with this feeling of I'm out here preaching and I don't know what I'm bringing these people back to. I don't know who I can count on. I don't know what message they're going to hear. I don't know if someone else is preaching and someone else's sharing of bhakti is going to be inclusive, generous, kind, empathic, community building. And so it's actually quite frightening.
Well, and I'm not doing the body issue intentionally or anything. As the only African-American Brahmin initiated woman at my temple for the past 20 years, I've raised my children here. Now I'm ostracized and, other things. I don't really have a lot of people speaking to me. So what am I supposed to do with people that, I'm sharing Krishna consciousness with and connecting with?
Sure. And I think that that's a question that we're all in, because we're trying to bring people onto the boat while we're trying to plug the holes in the boat at the same time. And so it can be, quite intimidating. So I don't necessarily know, I don't find myself to be in a position of giving guidance. But if I may share what I personally try and do, it's try and be transparent about the issues. Because likely out of the 2,000 women that you're sharing with, there are community builders. There may be a person in your audience who's the person who will provide the solutions that we're looking for, who may be able to contribute and strengthen the community. So letting them know, this is the beauty of bhakti. This is the transcendence of His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami's teachings. This is the community that we envision, and you can be a part of building it, because we are limited in so many ways and we are conditioned in so many ways. So not only is this something we can give to you as a gift, the teachings, the literature, what community strengths we have, but actually you have so much room to contribute. You have so much that you can give to us because you're unique, you're special. You can help build this community where you see a problem, you may be able to contribute the solution. So seeing not just, we're preaching to you to join our idyllic community, it's we're preaching to you to help in a mission. and I'll let you know what some of our issues are, and perhaps you can help us with that. So having humility as a preacher, I think, can be very powerful. I don't know if that's helpful, but that's the only way that I know how to approach it, because I'm not going to preach and pretend that people are not going to run into speed bumps. They certainly will, as I have.
Thank you so much, Danya Mataji. And I think that's such an important point. Oh, sorry. It's such an important point that, who are we preaching to, and then where do we bring them, and so we're plugging the holes in our own boat. So it's a lot of things to be juggling, but at the same time, we don't want to stop, so it's very powerful. Thank you. I think we had a question. We'll take one more comment from Shri Radhika. Shri Radhika Mataji has been waiting for a while. If you can go ahead and unmute yourself. Yes, go ahead, Shri Radhika.
Hare Krishna, dear Vaishnavi, thank you so much for sharing your mind, your thoughts. It was so wonderful to hear from all of you. I just wanted to offer a little comment on Danya was saying about feeling safety and about creating the community, healthy community or groups when we can share. And I can attest to it that we also have our own group where we feel safe to share our minds and our struggles. And it's truly very helpful. But what I also witnessed and found that devotees become more inclined to be like a little bit sectarian and isolate themselves because they feel very safe in this group. And when we go to the temple or more, places like kirtans and everything, we tend to again separate each other on these little groups with who we feel very comfortable and safe. I think so. My thought and suggestion is that we should take reasonable risk for others, for the other women in community, especially when we're in the public with others. To be more friendly, more kind, in a more genuine way, to get to know them and be inclusive to everyone. And so I think so I noticed that make very unhealthy kind of like separations. Like, although it's also normal and nice because we all will have friendships and we're inclined to be together, that will go along the way. But sometimes I think so we should take that for others and create that culture, loving culture between everyone.
Prabhupada spoke a lot about that, actually, in the sense that we're not intended to be friends and enemies. Devotional life means that we're friendly as servants of the Lord, serving together, which means that we are looking beyond those very kind of inclusive, what's the word that I'm looking for? We're looking beyond those little friendships that isolate us from others. So your point is completely valid. Something that actually has to be given more consideration and cultivated. We're friendly together for Krishna. All of us are.
Right. Thank you.
So thank you all very much. I think we're pretty much out of time, unfortunately. I know there's a lot more questions and comments still in line, but unfortunately it's 9:08 here on the East Coast, and we have audience members from all over the world. So thank you all for joining this evening, and thank you, dear panelists. I just wanted to make some quick announcements before we open it up for saying quick Haribol to our speaker.
And Madan Gopal, I hope this is kind of like just an opener for this conversation, maybe not necessarily here, but in other places also. I think it's really important.
Oh, absolutely, and I hope that we can do this again. I think this is a good it's a good start for getting us to open up ourselves and just having a forum where we can be open and honest and share among friends, So I think it was a pretty good start. I think we had a lot of insightful comments, a lot of insightful topics that came up, which don't normally come up in a lecture or a class. It's something where we're opening up our hearts and something that means something to us, and it's our future, not just of of our children or of the women, but the future of the Krishna conscious movement itself. You can't separate those two. Sometimes we think we can compartmentalize these things, but we are so connected. And like you're saying, it is even the great men who are great. They're great because we have so many women who are supporting them and so on. And the women are great because there are men who are supporting them. And of course, ultimately, the foundation of this massive pyramid called ISKCON is Srila Prabhupada. And without him, of course, we'd be nowhere. And I'm so grateful to all of you that you are keeping the energy, the electricity of Srila Prabhupada alive with your own dedication and your own wonderful examples. So I thank you all for giving us your time and your precious wisdom and insight this evening. And I hope that we can do this again and very frequently and build on this good start that we've had of an open dialogue on something that means something to us. So thank you all very much. I want to remind our audience members to please look up the 2 books that were mentioned earlier. So the books we talked about were Bond of Love, Srila Prabhupada and his daughters, 10 years in the making, is a collection of memories of more than 300 of Srila Prabhupada's female disciples, and it's available on Amazon. And then the free book, The Emergence of Women's Voices in ISKCON, is free to all, and a link will be shared on the book launch coming up this weekend. So that's going to come up on Facebook. So please take a look at that. The Amazon book link is on your chat box. Yashoda Dalal Prabhu has just put it up. Thank you, Yashoda Dalal Prabhu, for helping coordinate this event and supporting and co-hosting it. And thank you, dear devotees, for attending this evening. Coming up, just want to make announcements, coming up on the Zoom channel. So every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we have His Holiness Jai Advaita Swami Maharaj speaking on the 2nd canto, but that's a very interactive program. On Thursday, we have Kalakanta Prabhu speaking on poetic rendition of the Sudama pastime. On Saturday morning at 11, we have His Holiness Satsvarup Das Goswami Maharaj on meditations and poetry. And on Sunday, we have Gaur Kumar Prabhu on the success of Arjuna. So please do join on this channel, and we have programs pretty much every single day. So make a note of this every evening at 8 p.m., except for Saturdays. So thank you very much. And I'd like to open up to all the devotees. You can unmute yourself and say a quick Haribol. Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare
Hare
Prabhu,
Krishna.
that
Hare
was
Krishna. Thank
Hare
you.
Bo.
Krishna.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna.
Thanks.
Thank you so much.
Hare
Thanks,
Krishna.
Kanada. Thanks, Udharma.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Dhanvat Pranam. Thank you
Haribol.
so much.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
I just want to say
Yeah.
what everyone shared was really powerful. Thank you.
I like this intergenerational kata.
Krishna, thank you so much.
Hari Bol.
Haribol.
Hare Krishna. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you,
Hey,
everyone, for your
Bhajalila.
encouragement.
Hey. Hare Krishna. My mic not on.
Hare Krishna.
Haribol.
Radhe Radhe. Hari Bol.
Hare. Hare Sham.
Haribol.
Hare Hare. Haribol.